Hello, this is Leroy Meadows, and welcome to this session. This is session 4 of process costing. And in this session, we're going to look at hybrid costing systems. We're already finished with the differences between job costing and process costing. We've already looked at process costing from first in, first out in a weighted average perspective. We also looked in session 3 at transferred in costs. Now we're looking at hybrid costing systems. So if you missed something before about product costing, or you're not completely sure about what it is, go back to the previous videos and watch those. So, what are hybrid costing systems? Well, first of all, let's take a look at why we might need a hybrid costing system. Well, product costing systems do not always fall neatly into either job costing or process costing categories. In other words, neither a job costing system nor a process costing system is going to be a nice, neat, tidy way to figure out product cost. So what a hybrid costing system is going to do is going to blend characteristics from both job costing and process costing systems and take features of both. In actuality, many product systems are in fact hybrids, like manufacturers of televisions, dishwashers, washing machines, shoes will tend to use a hybrid costing system. Why? Because not every TV is identical. We don't sell just one model of TV if we're a TV manufacturer, but we might sell different models, different sizes, different features on them. Now we're making them and we're mass producing each model, but we have multiple models that we need to produce. So in that case, because there's different demand of resources, we might actually want to use a hybrid costing system there. Now, a hybrid system will use process costing to account for conversion costs and job costing to account for the material and customizable components. And that's typically what we see in a hybrid costing system. So anything that's customizable or there's a difference in material, we will use job costing, and then for the conversion cost, we will use a process costing type of system. Now, one specific type of hybrid costing system is operation costing system. So let's take a look at the operation costing system. Now, an operation is a standardized method or technique often performed repetitively, so we're doing the same thing over and over again. So kind of like process costing, but on different material, resulting in different finished goods. And we'll look at the illustration in the book here in just a moment to go over that and really understand what an operation costing system is and see it from the book itself. An operation costing system is a hybrid costing system applied to batches of similar but not identical products. Again, like televisions, they're similar. This one television manufacturer may have Model A, Model B, and Model C. Model A, B, and C may be similar, but not completely identical. Why? Because of difference in sizes, different. Maybe one may be an HD, one may be a 4K. Just depends. So, and we're going to run batches. We're going to mass produce batches, but at some point we're going to change over and do a setup and change sizes, change features, what have you. Now, within each operation, all product units are treated exactly alike, using identical amount of the operation's resources. So everything that does go through an operation will consume the same amount of resources. Now, managers do find operation costing information useful because operation cost focuses on control of physical processes or operations of a production system. So we can focus on the control of the physical processes or operations, and that's why managers tend to find that useful. Now let's go back into the book here and let us take a look at process costing. We're going to take a look at the illustration in the book here. The Baltimore Clothing Company is a clothing manufacturer and it produces two lines of blazers for department stores, those made of wool and those made of polyester. Now, wool blazers use better quality materials and undergo more operations than polyester blazers do. The operations information on work order 423 for 50 wool blazers and work order 424 for 100 polyester blazers are as follows. And we see the information here for the work order for work order 423 for 50 wool blazers, and then the work order 424 for 100 wool blazers. Now remember, a lot of times our differences are, for job costing portion of the hybrid costing method is going to be a difference in direct materials, and we do see that here. The work order 423 is going to be the wool blazers. Work order 424 is going to be the polyester blazers. And in just a couple minutes, we're actually going to look at work order 424. But before we get to that, let's take a look at what the operations use. The operation, both of them use the cutting cloth operation. Let's see, checking edges, work order 423 will use that operation, but we do not need that operation or that department or that process for work order 424 for our polyester blazers. Sewing body, both types of blazers will use that. For checking seams, we do that with wool blazers, but we do not check seams with polyester blazers. What about the machine sewing of collars and lapels? Well, we don't do that with wool, but we do that with polyester blazers. And then finally, hand sewing of collars and lapels. We use that for wool blazers, but we do not use that for polyester blazers. Now let's take a look at the work orders here, and let's take a look at the cost and how they derive the cost. Now we see that there's 50 wool blazers for work order 423 and 100 polyester blazers for work order 424. The cost of direct materials, because we're different direct materials, we expect that to be different. Work order 423 will require $6,000 of direct materials for that 50 blazers. Work order 424 will require $3,000 of direct materials for the 100 blazers. Here's where we get a difference in conversion costs, because they're consuming different amount of resources, because one blazer may require certain operations the other blazer doesn't, and vice versa. So we're only going to add to each work order the conversion costs, the allocated conversion costs of the operations we use. So let's take a look here. And let's take a look at Operation 1 budgeted conversion cost rate for 2017. We're going to take our overhead budgeted conversion costs and divide that by the number of units we expect to go out for 2017. So the number of units, so our predicted overhead of 232,000 divided by the number of units, or the number of blazers we expect to go through Operation 1 in that year. So we expect to have 20,000 units go through there, 20,000 blazers. So spreading that $232,000 out over 20,000 blazers, $11.60 per unit allocated. And each department will have its own overhead for conversion costs. So each department will have its own conversion cost allocation rate. So let's go ahead here and look at work order 424. And we see that based on, let's get a calculator out here, what is my rate per unit for conversion cost? $11.60. I'm going to put that on my calculator, times 100 units is $1,160. And that's the amount of overhead right here that we're going to allocate to each blazer that comes through. Let's take a look at Operation 2. Now we don't have the budgeted overhead for, or the cost rates, or conversion cost rates rather, for operations 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, but they're going to follow the similar pattern. Each operation is going to have its own conversion cost rate for the year for 2017. If the order that we have goes through a specific operation, then we will incur conversion costs allocated to our products from that operation. If we don't, like up here, we're told that this order for work order 424, we do not use Operation 2. So that's why operation 2 here on work order 424, we're not assigning or allocating any costs. Why? Because our products never go through that operation. So it's not consuming any resources. So it would be inappropriate to assign overhead to something if our products are not being used in that operation. We use operation. So I can look up here and look under work order 424, and I'm going to look at the operations we do use, and I would expect to incur conversion costs in operations 1, 3, and 5 because I'm using those resources. I'm putting demand on those resources. So operation 1, operation 3, operation 5, I incur an allocation of conversion costs, which I add up all my conversion costs to my direct materials, and I get my total manufacturing costs. And for this work order, what is my cost per blazer that I'm making for those polyester blazers? I'm going to take my 88.35, the total manufacturing costs, and that includes not only conversion costs, but my direct materials. And I'm going to divide that by 100 units. And so the cost of making each polyester blazer is $88.35. Let's take a look at the wool blazers, and just so we get an idea of a per unit cost of making those wool blazers. Total manufacturing costs, $10,080, and we're going to divide that and spread that out over 50 units. So $10,080 divided by 50 units. So the cost of each wool unit is going to cost $201.60. So we see the big difference here because wool, as we are told in the book, is a much better quality material, a lot more expensive, so therefore we would expect the selling price to be a lot higher. But that is our cost per unit for wool blade. So, and then the journal entries, let's take a look at the journal entries. Let me close out my calculator here. As we, in an operations costing system, as we incur conversion costs, we're going to incur those, we're going to add those up. And then as we send products through, we're going to allocate those. We're going to assign our materials. And then as we incur those costs of materials, and remember the materials were what, $29.75 for a particular thing here. And then let's see, conversion costs we had for the 100 polyester blazers, $29.75. We record the overhead, the conversion cost allocated to the product of $11.60 for the department. Then we're going to record the transfer of the polyester blazers from operation 1 to operation 3. Again, why are we not sending it to 2? Because we do not use operation 2 up here. So we would be foolish to transfer those costs to an operation that we're not even going to use. So I'm specifically bypass operation 2, and any operation that I don't use, I'm going to bypass. I'm going to send it over to the next operation that we will be using. So that's why I'm going to transfer that to operation 3. And then let's say later on when operation 3 is done, I'm going to transfer that cost over to operation 5. So how do we do the work in process for operation 1? Well, we're going to incur the direct materials. We're going to have conversion costs that are allocated, and then we're going to transfer those costs to the next department. And once we transfer all those costs to the next department, then we will have no ending inventory until we get another order, another job, and let's say some of those jobs are not completed, then we would have ending inventory. So we're going to look, so certain things are going to require job costing for direct materials and stuff like that. But if we have conversion costs, we have ending inventory, we're going to use process costing to compute the equivalent units of production for those conversion costs and stuff and direct material costs with if we have any work in process ending inventory at the end of the period. So that is a basic overview of operations costing system. So it's got some features of job costing, some features of process costing, but this is a little bit easier to understand now because we've already completed job costing. We are just finished up in the last 3 videos working with process costing, so now we can understand a little bit better operations costing, and then what we need to go through for there. So this is Leroy Meadows. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day.